If you spend a long enough time watching Fosse, the danger is that you begin to think that you can move like a Fosse dancer. And I would say it is, so the real trick is going to be to go to this show and then walk out and get yourself to the subway without sort of slithering slightly, you know what I mean?
Hello, I'm Patrick Pacheco. Welcome to Theater All the Moving Parts. Joining me for an exciting look at Broadway's winter-spring season are critics Helen Shaw of The New Yorker and Adam Feldman of Time Out New York. Also, Jan Simpson, theater journalist and host of the Broadway radio podcasts Stagecraft and All the Drama. Welcome to you all. We've got a new year and a new half of a season. So let's get at it. We'll start off chronologically, and I think the first thing that we're looking toward is that Phantom of the Opera obviously is closing, but there's a new Andrew Lloyd Webber musical on the rising that was done in London, in the West End, had a mixed reception in London, but here we go. It changed its title from Cinderella to Bad Cinderella. Can anybody tell us why?
That is a gutsy move to put Bad Cinderella in your title. It's just like there's Cinderella and now there's Bad. So it's setting us up as critics to sharpen our little arrows that way. But I don't know. It seems like a kind of a fun idea. It's Andrew Lloyd Webber. He's working with David Zippel, the lyricist again, and it's a kind of a new version of the Cinderella story where the Cinderella is sort of a goth chick, and she lives in this town where everyone is beautiful. And so, I'm open to the possibility that it will be enjoyable. And he's been on a bit of a run recently, Andrew Lloyd Webber, after a kind of fallow period for a lot of the 90s and aughts. So we'll see.
Once upon a time.
That line has been said countless upon a times.
In the beautiful, perfect kingdom of Belleville.
Perfect for whom?
As I was saying, lived our sweet and lovely Cinderella.
I'm not your Cinderella. I'm your bad Cinderella. From legendary composer Andrew Lloyd Webber and Oscar-winning writer Emerald Fennell, Bad Cinderella, coming to Broadway spring 2023.
Is one of the major themes about beauty, and Helen, you're shaking your head.
Yes, I think it is amusingly sort of taking aim at shallowness by making it set in a town where everyone is beautiful, which is a great excuse to cast an astonishingly beautiful set of people. So there may be a slight kind of Ouroboros of self-criticism there, but yes, they are. It is a place where people are only lovely. So even the ugly stepsisters they will keep that on the inside. So we will get to just sit back and bathe in, the beauty of the people on stage.
It's got some smart writers.
Yeah.
The woman who was the original writer, didn't she get an Oscar nomination?
Emerald Fennell, she won an Oscar.
Did she win? Okay.
Yes.
Do we know for what film?
Promising Young Woman.
Yeah,
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they just added Alexis Shearer, who did the off-Broadway play Our Dear Dead Drug Lord. And she's sort of young and snarky, so I guess they want some extra snarkiness in it as well.
Great.
So it'll be interesting. It's an interesting mix of flavors that
The snark of life.
Well, a composer that needs no continuity at all is Stephen Sondheim. And we have Sweeney Todd coming up with Josh Groban and Annalee Ashford. To talk about something that's going to sell very well, I should think this is going to sell tremendously well.
This is my absolute favorite musical of
It
all
is?
time.
Oh, good.
Of all time. It's my favorite musical, and I know some people are questioning Josh Groban in the role, but I think he'll be fine, and Annalee is perfect.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to it.
These are the roles that obviously were created by Len Cariou and Angela Lansbury tremendously in the mid-'70s. I think it was 78. Correct me if I'm wrong. 79,
79,
perhaps?
I think.
Yeah,
79.
Sweeney Todd, the demon barber of Fleet Street, the new Stephen Sondheim Harold Prince musical thriller starring Angela Lansbury and Len Cariou.
What happened then? Well, that's the play, and he wouldn't want us to give it away.
Not Sweeney. Not Sweeney.
What's really exciting for me about this production is that it's a big production. It's going to have a really full-sized chorus of about 30 people. It's got a big, nice-sized orchestra. And we've had revivals of Sweeney on Broadway before, but the two of them that we've had have been reduced size.
An orchestra of 27, Helen, and directed by Tommy Kail.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I mean, I too am looking forward to it. I think we're having a kind of a Sondheim, you know, hopefully, as you said, you know, someone who needs no continuity, but perhaps it would be nice if we actually just simply always had a Sondheim on Broadway kind of going forward. And we'll have Merrily We Roll Along in the fall, I think. Is that right?
That's
It's coming
That's
in the
right.
fall. Yeah. So, you know, I think off to the races. I am a little perhaps less excited than the others on the panel, but that's only because I am, you know, so deeply in the tank for weird stuff downtown that this show is, it fills me with delight, but not avid pleasure.
Well, it certainly is the people's Sondheim. I
Yes.
mean, even people who aren't musical people or Broadway people, they know Sweeney Todd. They love Sweeney Todd.
Yes.
So I think this one has a chance of running, which Sondheim musicals don't
always do it.
So,
Right. And we have Bob Fosse's Dancin, I should say, with choreography recreated by Wayne Cilento.
Bringing back the show has been such an honor. Every piece of choreography, every movement is all Bob Fosse.
It allows me to do something that is so much bigger than self, and it's just something that, to be quite honest with you, I can't imagine my life without.
I'm so grateful to be able to dance at all, and to be able to have a project like this is just like proof that you just never know where you're going to end up.
Now, this is not to be mistaken by Fosse, which came in 1999. Dancin came in 1978.
With things like choreography, it's difficult to revive in the same way because you if the point is the choreography, you can't make that many changes to it without really losing the essence of it. But Wayne Cilento is a Fosse dancer. He knows it very well. He was in the cast of Dancin, so I think that, you know, I personally am ready for more dance on Broadway. It's part of what really excites me as an audience member because they're doing things that I can't imagine doing.
And Anne Reinking recreated the choreography for Fosse. Now, Helen, when you saw Fosse, you didn't see Fosse.
I'm afraid, no.
So how familiar are you with the Bob Fosse style, technique?
If you spend a long enough time watching Fosse, the danger is that you begin to think that you can move like a Fosse dancer. And I would say it is, so the real trick is going to be to go to this show and then walk out and get yourself to the subway without sort of slithering slightly, you know what I mean? Becoming weirdly interested in hats. And it really was, it was a danger. So I'm actually very excited to see this because this is one of my favorite films is All That Jazz. And so again, sort of like, you know, let's just have a Sondheim sort of always in the air. We may as well just have that gorgeous movement and very welcome.
I think the mini series also has sort of primed the pump.
That's true.
For Fosse.
True.
So it did very well, and I think people will want to see the real stuff.
Yeah.
And I think you really can't slither and slide into Shucked. I think that's a totally different part of the forest altogether. Obviously, as we were talking about Shucked, it had started a long time ago under the title of Moonshine, that was based loosely on the hee-haw. So I think that was a real head scratcher until it was totally overhauled and now called Shucked. It had an out-of-town tryout in Salt Lake City, Utah. It may have had some other tryouts as well. Jack O'Brien is directing, which is a very good sign. And Robert Horn is writing the book, which is a very good sign. Tony Award winner for Tootsie. He's a very funny.
He's very funny.
What else do we know about it, and are you looking forward to it?
I know it has a good cast. Alex Newell is in it, and John Billman, and Kevin Cahoon. I think that, it seems like they're all in on some joke. I don't know what the joke is yet, but the marketing suggests that there's a wink in the marketing already.
Well, it's about a town that subsists on corn, I'm pretty sure, and the cornfields are dying. And it's necessary for someone from town, it sounds like Brigadoon in a way, to go outside this small sheltered town to Tampa in order to bring somebody back, which sounds like 110 in the shade, in terms of some kind of suspect miracle worker that's going to revive the town's fortunes. So it's Nashville sort of meets Broadway.
Shucked is coming to New York. Shucked is coming to Broadway. You don't get laughs as corn every day. Get Shucked.
We'll see how well that chemistry happens, but I think it's got a great team.
Yeah.
And we'll see.
And obviously, as a proud daughter of Kansas, it's my own tale.
There you go.
So it'll be nice to finally see myself up there.
There are, I think, only 3 new musicals, 4 revivals. We've already talked about Sweeney, Todd, and Dancin. A 3rd revival is Camelot.
Yeah.
Now, Camelot is famous because it had a first performance in Toronto, and their tryout ran for 4.5 hours. The original director, Moss Hart, had a heart attack.
Yeah.
The book writer and lyricist, Alan J. Lerner, was hospitalized with a bleeding ulcer. It was also famous because it got very mixed reviews, mixed reception, and was not doing well at the box office until it was on the Ed Sullivan Show.
I have been informed by those who know them well. They find relief in quite a clever way. When they're sorely pressed, they whistle for a spell, and whistling seems to brighten up their day. And that's what simple folk do. So they say.
They whistle.
So they say.
Which then sort of saved it. The next day there were lines around the block where there had not been prior to that. It's always been a problematic show. Do you think Bart Sher, who's directing it, can solve the problems of Camelot?
Well, it's not just Bart Sher. It's, help me, West Wing.
Aaron Sorkin.
Aaron Sorkin is redoing the book. It doesn't seem a natural fit. A lot of walk and talk between King Arthur and Sir Lancelot, but you know, he's a smart guy, and he can be witty, and so it'll be interesting to see. But Bartlett Sher has done such a good job of reviving those mid-century musicals that I'm not going to bet against him. And also, it's got a great cast.
Who's in the cast?
Philippa Sue.
Philippa Sue, yeah.
Yeah.
Andrew Burnap as King Arthur.
And the young guy from the last revival of My Fair Lady, who played Freddie.
Oh, Freddie Einsford Hill, that's right.
Jordan Danica?
Jordan
Yes.
Danica.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Camelot is just a show that I had given up on. I'm honest. I'm just going to be straight with you. I've seen it 3 times, and each time I've gone away saying, "How was this ever a success?" And so I'm very curious. Ordinarily, I would say a wholesale revisal of a show doesn't usually work, as we saw with On a Clear Day a few years ago, another troubled Lerner show.
Yeah.
But if it's going to work on anything, I think it could work on this, because the score is familiar and quite likable at times. And Bart Shear is, as you say, really a genius at reviving old shows. In this case, he's not, but you know, the difficulty here is he's not taking a great old show like South Pacific and revealing how great it is. They're going to have to really work on this, I think, as though it were in some ways a new musical. So I am excited to see what the results will be.
And I think we can count on one thing, which is true to all Sorkin properties, which is that the male character will tell us that he is a deep pacifist, but when called to do it, he'll punch somebody out. So we can look forward to a gauntleted fist going through somebody at some point. I'm really not actually looking forward to that. But what I am looking forward to is simply seeing Camelot again, because deep in my secret heart, it's my favorite, and for a very bad reason, which is that I was in it twice. And so when I saw this announced, I thought, oh no, I'll sing along, it'll be so embarrassing.
And for my generation, it's very emotional, because early on, it became associated with the Kennedy administration. And Jackie Kennedy, you know, in the wake of the assassination 2 or 3 years later, made sure that it was fastened to her husband's legacy. And I think at one time, actually, it was on the road shortly after the assassination. And when King Arthur sang Camelot, there was a wail in the audience. They had to stop the show because people just started bawling their eyes out, associating it with the Kennedy administration and what it was.
Maybe that's why they brought in Sorkin.
Sorkin.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually, I think that, I don't know if he can play off of that, but it's certainly, for a certain people, for people of a certain age, it certainly has that association. And the other revival, well, no, a new musical, New York, New York.
Right.
Absolutely. A new musical, what sounds like a revival in a way because it's so associated, loosely based on the film, but apparently with a very new book by David Thompson and Sharon Washington. And they're borrowing 2 songs from the film, the Robert De Niro, Liza Minnelli film, The World Goes Round, and the famous New York, New York song that has become an anthem as well.
These vagabond shoes are longing to stray and step around the heart of it, New York, New York.
What else do we know about it, and are we looking
Well,
forward
John
to
Kander is writing the music and co-writing the lyrics, I think, with Lin-Manuel Miranda. John is in his 90s, but he remains one of the great Broadway composers of all time. So if anyone can pull off this kind of challenge, which is to revisit and expand a partial score from 50 years ago, then it's John Kander. And Lin certainly has some of the best theater instincts in the world.
And the other part of the creative team is itself also exciting, because it's David Thompson, Susan Stroman, and Sharon Washington, which means a Scottsboro Boys kind of reunion on that side of things. And Scottsboro Boys was quite wonderful.
If there's any excitement, it is because of the pairing of Miranda and Kander. I saw the very first performance of In the Heights, and it was over at the Baryshnikov Center. And John Kander was there. And when the show ended, John Kander was the first person to leap up and lead the standing ovation. And so the idea that, you know, these 2 people from different generations are coming together is exciting just in itself. So,
A Man of No Importance. Now, it's rumored to come to Broadway. It had been, where had it been prior?
At Lincoln Center.
At Lincoln.
Well, this one.
Yes, this one.
This one is
the CSC, directed by John Doyle, correct?
It's his outgoing project at Classic Stage.
It was his swan song.
Right. Has not yet been officially announced for Broadway, and maybe it will, maybe it won't. But Jim Parsons from Big Bang Theory and many other things, including several Broadway shows, is the lead in this. Roger Rees role.
Yes, that's right. And played by Albert Finney in the film on
Albert
which
Finney
it's
in the
based.
And Mayor Winningham, who's wonderful in it.
He was always wonderful.
Always wonderful. So it's an interesting production. It's not a big musical, and in John's version, it's even smaller than it was when it was at Lincoln Center.
Terrence McNally wrote the book about a bus conductor who
adapted from the
closeted.
90s film about a bus conductor in the 60s,
1960s,
in Ireland,
is obsessed with Oscar Wilde and amateur theatricals and
closeted gay who's obsessed with a young man as well.
Obsessed with a young man he works with who's wants to mount a production of Salome in his amateur theater group.
Good morning, my dear friends.
Good morning, Mr. Byrne.
Our next production, and I will need your support, hard work, and talent as never before, will be Oscar Wilde's masterpiece, The Tragedy of Salome, Princess of Judea.
That's the play with the immodest dancing in it, is it not, Mr. Byrne?
It is the play with the sublime dance of the seven veils, Mrs. Grace. It is not immodest, it is art.
Mr. Grace would never allow me to exhibit myself undulating in flimsy garments.
And for that, we are grateful to Mr. Grace.
You know, it's a touching story, potentially touching story.
And a beautiful score by Lynn Ahrens and Stephen Flaherty. Yes. And the young man, at least in the CSC production, and probably on Broadway, will be played by A.J. Shively. Thank you
who's really
very
terrific.
much.
Yeah.
Who was in Tony nominated, actually, for Paradise
Square. Yeah.
Okay. Good. And now we're going into the straight plays, of which there are more, which is an unusual thing. I think there are 9 plays. Before we look at the plays for Broadway's winter-spring season, we are taking a short break. Welcome back. I'm Patrick Pacheco. I'm continuing my discussion about Broadway's winter-spring season with critics Helen Shaw of The New Yorker and Adam Feldman of Time Out New York. Also, Jan Simpson, theater journalist and host of the Broadway radio podcasts Stagecraft and All the Drama. And speaking of plays, right out of the gate is the new play Pictures from Home by Shaw White. What do we know about that?
Well, we know it's adapted from a photo memoir by the photographer Larry Sultan, and he was apparently taking photos of his own parents. You see through the photos, I guess, some aspects of their relationship that get into the psychodynamics of their particular parental and filial ties. And so Shaw White has adapted this into a 3-person stage play with 3 very accomplished stage actors, Nathan Lane, Zoe Wanamaker, and Danny Burstein. And so, you know, just on the strength of that cast, that may have a lot to give us.
Directed by Bart Scher. He's a busy guy.
Bart Scher, very busy again.
And from there, the season goes to a revival of Henrik Ibsen's A Doll's House, starring Jessica Chastain and Ariane Moayed, correct? That's an exciting, this is the 14th Broadway production of A Doll's House. Why do you suppose people want to keep reviving it? Helen?
Well, my cynic's heart would say that Jamie Lloyd, the director, has a list of classics, and this was next alphabetically, but having already done Betrayal. But I think that, and then Cyrano, so Doll's House would naturally be next. I realize that's ungenerous. I think it is because it is proto-feminist, and it is a great role for a powerful actor, and I think there are very few things that are consistent on Broadway throughout time, but serving its great actresses is one thing it's very good at doing, is finding parts that will serve them well. So I think, you know, what would Jessica Chastain be in that would be worthy of her sort of both her box office draw and also her sort of innate majesty? Well, here is this great part already made for her. So
they're using a new adaptation by Amy Herzog. And she is a really, I think, a wonderful playwright, and she wrote a play a few years ago called Mary Jane that I was absolutely enamored of. And so I am curious what she's going to bring to it. I think, I mean, it'll be a different probably a quite different version than the one that they were originally planning to present in the West End.
What I do think about this play, though, is very much what Helen was saying about it being a great role for a woman. And, you know, how many productions of Hamlet have we had on Broadway? Because that's the, you know, the mountain to scale if you're a male actor. And I think this is similar for women. And obviously Jessica Chastain can do whatever she wants to do right now.
Play that's coming up with a big question mark, at least in my mind, is Life of Pi, of course, based on the Oscar-winning movie.
And the novel.
And the novel. You were right, exactly. It was done in the West End quite successfully. I think it was nominated for a number of Olivier and may well have won quite a few as well.
Once upon a time, I lived in Pondicherry's botanical gardens, in the zoo. It was a huge zoo, spread over acres and acres, big enough for a train to explore. But now it's so small, it fits in my head.
Just looking at some of the footage, it seemed to borrow a lot from, in terms of creating these animals, of which there is an hyena, a Bengal tiger, an orangutan, as well, in terms of this
sort of
shipwreck.
Sort of warhorse on water.
And the Lion King. It's going to be fascinating to see how it's done, but it presumably is beautiful to look at.
That's what I hear.
Quite moving as a story. Anything else we know about it?
Yeah, I think they're aspiring to be warhorse. I mean, we don't have many long runs of plays, and so when we do get a long run of plays, in the past 20 years, they tend to be spectacle-oriented plays. So Warhorse, Harry Potter, Curious Incident, and this would seem to be in line with that, to give people who want the sense of spectacle of a musical, but in play form.
And it's a South Asian story, which we don't see quite often on Broadway. It's about a young Indian teenager who, it starts out in India, in Pondicherry, unless I'm mispronouncing that too. Pondicherry, and then there is this crisis, political crisis in India, which causes his family then to take to the sea, to come to Canada, I believe. And it's this shipwreck that then puts him in the boat with a Bengal tiger.
It does. I don't want to spoil anything, but it is also a piece about man's inhumanity to man and the difficulty of seeking, of being a refugee, or the way that people are placed at each other's basest instincts, and that we can be so cruel to each other when we are, as you say, driven into sort of a boat for reasons of political crisis. And so it is also politically incredibly relevant.
The play that goes wrong ran for quite a long time, and we now have another play going wrong, but it's Peter Pan Goes Wrong.
I have high hopes, really, for Peter Pan Goes Wrong, because Peter Pan is the show, you know, if you know the concept of this show and the last one, it's just a series of disasters in a production, and in this case, a production of Peter Pan. And Peter Pan is already so, it lends itself so well to that because of all the flying and the rest of it, you know.
And from The Mischief Company to The Mischief in Fat Ham, Pulitzer Prize winner, was off-Broadway at the Signature?
No, at Public.
At the Public. And got rave reviews, is now going to be on Broadway, and has a wonderful concept. It's based on Hamlet, loosely based on Hamlet, we should say, and it takes place a lot in the backyard of a North Carolina home.
Right. It's set, it's Hamlet at a barbecue.
I want to talk to you.
About what?
Your daddy.
My daddy is dead.
You know what I'm talking about.
The king, my queen, is dead.
Huh?
It's Shakespeare, kind of.
You watch too much PBS.
How can one watch too much PBS?
You don't need to know all that.
Yeah, well, it's harmless.
Whatever. You need to stop Golden Red.
I didn't do nothing to him.
That little charades trick you pulled.
No, I pulled a slip from the bowl just like everyone else.
You're upsetting him.
I'm a little worried about this production, to be quite honest, because it was very successful down at the Public, but they're moving it into the American Airlines Theater. That is a barn of a theater. This is not that's a theater for Jessica Chastain or for a big musical. This isn't that kind of show. And I just worry that it's being set up in a way to fail.
I also think that it is itself a pretty broad comic effort.
Just be nice to him.
Oh, how nice the quarrel was.
What?
Shakespeare.
If you bring up that dead old white man one more time, don't nobody want to talk about his ass. You act like he got all the answers. You look crazy out here quoting Shakespeare and shit.
Yeah, well, it seemed appropriate.
Appropriate my ass!
Sahim Ali, who's directing it, has a lot of experience in the park with Shakespeare in the Park shows, and so knows how to kind of direct for a sort of a quasi-amphitheater. And so, you know, I don't know. I'm actually hoping that it kind of lets the show breathe a little bit, and that it might be even more of a pleasure on Broadway than off. I don't know.
No, I saw Kimberly Akimbo again on Broadway as I had seen it off Broadway, and I really enjoyed it off Broadway. I really enjoyed it more on Broadway because there's a critical mass of people in the audience that can laugh along with things, that can be excited along with things. And
This time, everybody makes this time. We won't implode. This time, we hit the road. This time, we stay on track. This time, my voice won't crack. This time, we take the prize. This time, nobody dies.
Speaking of funny, but also something of a crank, is Goodnight Oscar, Oscar Levant. It is led by Sean Hayes on Broadway, about Oscar Levant, a famous wit, talk show host, but also a concert pianist as well, who had his moment in the sun in the 50s, 40s, and in the 50s. He's also made appearances as well.
Oscar Levant is not only a wit, he's a wit's wit. He has truly said some of the cleverest things said in our time. But to put it mildly, he's as nervous as he is clever. For every pearl that comes out of his mouth, a pill goes in. Just coming here is therapy for him. So welcome now my favorite far outpatient, one of America's true geniuses, Oscar Levant.
We have a bunch of pills here. Honestly, we know we got everything.
I took them. They're nothing.
What do you do for exercise?
I stumble and then I fall into a coma. Incidentally, don't keep berating your audience. You have the most responsive audience since Adolf Hitler in the good old days.
It was done out of town.
Chicago?
In Chicago at the Goodman. Do you remember anything, Jack Parr and Oscar Levant?
No, and I think this is maybe the problem that this may have. I don't know that there's a big Oscar Levant audience.
But there's a big Sean Hayes audience, I should think.
There is, but it depends on what he does. I mean, Promises he did, and that didn't quite work. I think this is sort of a passion project of his. I think he plays the piano, and he is a Oscar Levant fan. But I think they're going to have to really figure out a very smart way to market this.
It got very good reviews at the Goodman. It got excellent notices, so I think that probably helps. And
we should say it's being written by Doug Wright, who knows his way around a Broadway play. And
Right.
so, you know, again, wait and see.
And do you like plays about cranks, about dyspeptic?
It speaks to me deeply. It obviously speaks to me deeply. I know what you're saying about this is a figure from out of the fog of the past, but you know, a Broadway theater is itself such a gorgeous old sort of, you know, time machine that I think, you know, if Oscar Levant is going to have a crack at modern stardom, this, you know, it should be there.
Another play from London, the London import, and here we go with pronunciation.
I've always said Prima Facie, and this is part of the problem, is that there are a lot of alternate pronunciations of it. It's a terrible title for a show. It's a legal term, but you know, there's Prima Facie or Facie, like there's many accepted ways of pronouncing it.
But the show sounds fascinating.
Tell us what it's about.
It's a one-woman show. It stars Jodie Comer of Killing Eve, a thing which was very popular on television. But more to the point, it's about a woman barrister in London, or lawyer here, who has made a career of defending men who assault women. And then she is herself assaulted, and she has to deal with her conflicting feelings about this. It got terrific reviews there. It did very well on National Theatre Live. I'm really very excited about seeing it.
All rise! A lawyer's job is not to know, it's to not know. You don't play God. Due process is everything. Because it's not just your case, no, it's the law that is at stake. And the law, it's there to protect everyone. The only way the system works is because we all play our roles. We each tell a story, and the jury decide which story is the one they believe. It's not emotional for me, it's the game. It's the game of law.
I haven't seen it, and so, you know, but based on its, as you say, based on the reception that it had there, you know, I think it is a prima facie contender for an interesting show to see. I mean, I would also, you know, unfortunately, I think everyone should see everything. So there's never going to be a moment where I say, oh no.
Speaking of wanting everybody should see everything.
Yes.
What should everybody see off-Broadway?
We don't. Before we move on, the other two actors that I'm very excited to see return to Broadway in a play are Laura Linney and Jessica Hecht, who are coming back in a new play by David Auburn, summer 1976. And David Auburn had a huge success with Proof. And, you know, we haven't really seen that much of him since on Broadway.
I believe it's about an iconoclastic artist and a young housewife in Ohio, your neck of the woods, coming to terms with their womanhood during the summer of the bicentennial of America.
Well, so there you go. And Daniel Sullivan's directing it, who directed Proof and who has 3 or 4 secret Pulitzer Prizes.
And then there is another play that's rumored to come to Broadway, and that is the Thanksgiving play by Larissa Fasthorse, which was off-Broadway.
Good native king and good interpreter, welcome on this day of the good Lord's Feast of Thanksgiving.
So we're making a culturally sensitive first Thanksgiving for Native American Heritage Month? Oh my goodness!
You can't reach new lands until you let go of the shore. Or in this case, return to old lands, but as a more enlightened person because of the journey to the other land.
Let's put the audience here.
And speaking of off-Broadway, What are you most looking forward to seeing off-Broadway, or perhaps at BAM or St. Anne's or any of these other places?
The play that I'm most looking forward to is The Sign in Sidney Brustein's Window, which is the second play by Lorraine Hansberry. Everyone knows A Raisin in the Sun. We've seen it many times. Lorraine Hansberry died before she turned 40. I've never seen this play. I think I read it a while ago. I'm really looking forward to seeing it. Oscar Isaac and
Rachel Brosnahan.
Right, Rachel Brosnahan are going to be doing it, and I'm really interested in seeing it.
And that is going to be done at the Brooklyn Academy of Music,
Yes.
correct?
Yes. Very
and
off-Broadway.
and it is basically, it was done in the early 60s, correct me if I'm wrong, but it basically is about somebody that wants to do good that kind of gets lost in a way, which was very much of its time. Everybody's
Yeah.
sort of questioning their conscience and what they wanted to do.
I don't know
in
that
terms
it
of civil
got very good reviews at the time, but it's also interesting because we don't often have playwrights of color writing about white people.
Right.
And this is a play where it is white people who are wrestling with these issues of race. And of course, race isn't a problem of people of color alone.
Yeah.
So I'm really interested in seeing this.
Good point. Adam?
I am very excited about White Girl in Danger, which is the new show by Michael R. Jackson. He, of course, wrote A Strange Loop, which won the Pulitzer in its year, is on Broadway briefly.
Wanna know what's going on in New York? We wanna know what's going on in your life. With people there living any which way, and to heck with what the B-I-E-L-E say. We wanna know what's going on in New York.
Excuse you, I believe I asked you a question. You know, but A Strange Loop is very interior, and it's very much about the inside processes of one person's head. And this one seems to be a completely different kind of show that draws from soap opera and horror genres and a whole lot of things that Michael has been interested in for a long time as a person.
Well, we know it's going to be brave, we know it's going to be bold, and we know it's going to be funny. And we know it's going to be inventive. He is so original, and it's so great that we're getting a fast follow-up from him.
Yeah. Yes.
You know, that's the really exciting. And
Michael is an outside-the-box thinker. You know, so
He really
this
is.
whatever this is. It's not going to be boring.
Yes. Helen, I know you got a long list.
I do have a long list, but I've been spoken to tartly about getting it down to just a few. So I'm going to say one that's really two, which is that Susan Laurie Parks has a musical at the Public this season called The Harder They Come. And last year was supposed to be the kind of year of Susan Laurie Parks because we had The Harder They Come on its way. We knew that was coming. But we also had this very beautiful revival that we all got to see of Top Dog Underdog.
To get by, just to get by, just to get by, just to get by. We commute to computer, spirits stay mute while your ego spread rumors. We survivalists turn to consumers. Just to get by, just to get by, just to get by.
The third in the sort of the three things we were supposed to see from her was stopped by COVID. It was really they just ran into too many problems with COVID, and so Plays for the Plague Year, I have heard, will perhaps be coming back this season. So we'll finally get that little promised sort of Susan Laurie Parks-a-thon, and I think those two things together, her as a sort of pseudo burlesque in a way artist, I think, which is Plays for the Plague Year, is her sort of cabaret of what it was like to be in shutdown, and then also an actual bona fide musical, which is
But with
The
the
Harder
songs
They Come.
of Jimmy Cliff.
With the songs of Jimmy Cliff.
The Harder They Come.
That's The Harder They Come.
And is it based on The Harder They Come was a film.
Was it?
Yes.
No, it was one of the soundtracks I went to sleep to every night in college. It was one of the 4 CDs on my changer.
Tell me up high up in the sky, waiting for me when I die. But between the day you're born and when you die, never seem to hear even your cry. So as sure as the sun will shine, I'm gonna get my share. What's mine? And then the harder they come, the harder they fall.
I would have to say that The Jungle is coming back to St. Anne's. It was a tremendous hit at the time that it was done 3 years ago, whenever it was.
4 years.
And it is about, refugees, about desperate refugees in a refugee camp in Calais, France.
By November in the jungle, I could walk from Sudan through Palestine and Syria. Pop into a Pakistani cafe on Oxford Street near Egypt.
It's immersive as well, of people trying to get to the United Kingdom and the adventures that they have, many of which are tragic. But also which is that sort of picture of humanity and how people do come to the rescue, as opposed to people that just take advantage, or it's not what a dog-eat-dog Darwinian world the entire time.
Tiger eat tiger, as it may turn out to be this season.
As we said earlier.
Yeah.
Dog eat pie.
Yeah. Oh, that's actually. It's actually, Sign at Sidney Brustein's Window and Camelot will be a fun double feature.
We have to wrap up, but as we do, just in a word, if you will, how are you feeling about the upcoming slate of shows on Broadway and off-Broadway, for that matter? The New York theater scene. Dan, let's start with you. How are you feeling?
Well,
in a
always
word?
promising.
Promising.
Yeah, always promising. Hopeful.
Hopeful and promising?
Yeah, I'll hyphenate into cautiously optimistic.
Oh, great. And what makes you cautiously optimistic?
Because my optimism is constantly punished. But not always not punished. I mean, I was a little perhaps too optimistic about the season that just passed. And so I'm trying to tamp down my own expectations for what comes ahead. Because the expectations game is part of it. I look at this slate ahead and there's something in each of the Broadway offerings that I'm very interested in seeing.
Back to you, Jan. What makes you hopeful?
I guess I'm always hopeful about theater and what's on offer. I tend to be the most hopeful, the most excited about off-Broadway because we get new voices there. But there's a lot of new elements in just about all of these shows. And so even for some of the old war horses, if you will, a Sweeney Todd, a Camelot, there's a new element that makes you say, okay, let's see what this is saying to me now. So that's what makes me hopeful.
And Helen, in a word?
Impatient, because of the various decisions that are made behind closed doors and smoky rooms. So many of these shows are coming in March and April. And so we just have to hang on grimly through January and February. There are, of course, many wonderful things to see, but not quite enough for my taste. I just really want that feeling of an avalanche of shows piling on you, the kind of crushing weight of them. That's what I look forward to. So I think, yes, impatience, more programming in February, be bold, producers.
Great. Well, be bold is a good note to end on. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for your insights.
Thank you.
Fun.
And thank you for joining us. We look forward to bringing you more fascinating conversations with artists and professionals as New York theater, The Fabulous Invalid, regains its invaluable place in American culture. I'm Patrick Pacheco.